Hello, it is 5:23, week number two. We are here. We're talking about human-centered design. The first step in design thinking is empathy and empathy mapping. So the big idea behind this that I always stick with when I'm like, wait, when we talk about design thinking, it's what people actually need, not what they think they need. So a great example in a school, certainly with me as role as tech director, is when I'm talking with particularly middle school students. They're going from classroom to classroom, and they're like, "How's the device? How's the Wi-Fi? How's all the things?" And inevitably, do you know what a middle schooler will say about the iPad? The Wi-Fi is slow. I need faster Wi-Fi. And so immediately, did you catch the issue? Right? That's not a need. That's a want. And that's not necessarily what the underlying issue is, which, by the way, is what discussion board two is about. Um, it's jumping to the conclusion of when I'm on my device in this classroom, things are loading slowly. Therefore, the only way to fix this is faster Wi-Fi. Um, and so when they say I need faster Wi-Fi, you're like, well, what's wrong, Bill? Like that, sure. But actually, when we take a stance of empathy. And in this assignment, you're going to do an empathy map. There's a Google Doc template that walks you through each of the steps. There's a little bit of reading. It's all fantastic and really tees you up for this. And I'm trying to kind of add a slightly different take to that so that when you put those two together, you will be good to go for your first assignment. Um, so the faster Wi-Fi is like, sure, no one will say no to faster Wi-Fi, but actually paying with the tech budget for faster Wi-Fi will not fix their problem. Instead, it's telling about a time when is one of my favorite sentence starters in design thinking when we're looking at identifying the issues, when we're looking at that empathy piece. In this first reading, you have where did it go? I just had it and I closed it. The readings in media. Yeah. Perfect. So it's from Ed Surge. They have a great series around design thinking. It's down under readings in media. Design thinking is a challenge to teach, which I very much agree with. So as we look at, wait, I got a scratchy throat. As we look at trying to kind of identify what the actual needs are with these students, is tell me about a time when the Wi-Fi was slow on your iPad. Well, I just went from this room to that room. We'll show which rooms. I went from that one way over here to this one, far but not too far. Um, what were you doing? Well, so I was still on my device, tapping, 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 um, and then got in my class. Tell me more. Like, was the device still open? Was it closed? Well, it was still open. And then class, we started going it, and I had to watch this video, and the video is really slow, so we need faster Wi-Fi. Right? People love to jump to like the what they think is the solution, which sometimes is true, but often misses the actual underlying issue. So in this particular case, the problem is that, and we're going to get a little bit geeky with kind of network configuration. Um, most modern classrooms will have a wireless access point, like a big rectangular prism in each classroom. Sometimes a couple will share classrooms, sometimes it's one kind of per building pod or per series, but ideally it's one per classroom, center of the ceiling, mounted. When you open up any device that uses that Wi-Fi, it's going to look for the SSID. So I work at Hillbrook. The name of our network is Hillbrook. It looks for the SSID Hillbrook. You tap on it, it joins, or it just auto joins. And when it actually joins, is it actually makes a connection to that wireless access point that's closest. And typically, you are on that wireless access point until you walk so far away that you actually lose the signal. So, as I was talking with some of our students who were like, the Wi-Fi is slow, the Wi-Fi sucks. Um, what actually, when I got to actually understanding what they were doing, is they were going from one building to another with their device open. And so they're in, like, we have building names like H and J are like close enough. So if they're like an H2 and they have their device and they're like, checking what's due for homework the next time and check in. And they walk over to like J6 and the device is still open. That device is still connected to H2 until it's so far that it just loses the connection. And then the device will go, where's my nearest wireless access point? Boop, there it is. It's in this classroom. If you close it or turn it off or lock it, then when you open it back up, it's going to find the closest one. But if you just leave it on or open, or you're kind of browsing between classes, it's going to stay connected to that farther one away. So it's as though the one in J6 doesn't even have a wireless access point. The one on either side of that classroom, no wireless access points. It's going through the wall, possibly through the roof, into H2. So it's like four different walls plus all that distance. So yeah, your connection is going to be really slow because now you're like 50 feet away and you're going through at least two walls to connect. And so what by doing that empathy map and interview and the tell me about a time when we come to find that the issue isn't actually that the Wi-Fi is slow. The Wi-Fi is actually ridiculously fast at our school. There's other issues that will bottleneck and slow things down, many issues, and it's super complicated. But that initial presenting of the Wi-Fi sucks, the Wi-Fi is slow, is actually your device is open as you're going between classes and you're connected to an access point connected to Wi-Fi from far, far away. So if you close it, or if you just swipe to the control center and go Wi-Fi off and on, you're connected to the access point that's 15 feet above you, and it's super, super fast. Also, the ping, the time it takes to go from your device to the access point to a server somewhere and then back, like that round trip, is going to be much, much faster, which is often also what people mean when they mean fast Wi-Fi. It's not how many megabytes per second you can download that is usually the marker because you're typically not streaming 4K video. So as long as you're downloading 5 megabytes a second or better, um, that's plenty for a device. And so it's really trying to get people to tell the story, and I'm trying not to go too geeky into the network side of things, even though that's part of my role, right? But it's such a good example of the I need faster Wi-Fi. Well, okay. So this campus has 1 gig symmetrical, it's 1 gigabyte per second download to the school and 1 gigabyte per second upload, which is really fast. You have a 10 gig file, you can download it in 10 seconds. It's like mind-boggling. So fast. It's actually not doubling that. 2 gigabytes a second is not going to speed things up when you are 50 feet away from a wireless access point. And so getting able to hear people's stories, tell me at a time when you tried to do this, tell me about a time when you struggled with that, you tend to get to those underlying issues of what are the actual behaviors? And if you're asking really detailed questions, you're really able to understand, you're able to unlock things like I did with this particular case, where it's like, oh, the device was left open. And then sure enough, I can go to Meraki, Cisco Meraki dashboard, look for that student device. And if we're in J6, it'll be like, you're connected to, and I name the access points based on the room they're in. You're connected to H2. Of course it's slow. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, of course. I mean, unless you're a tech director or someone has taught you about this, you're not going to know it. Maybe you're listening to this and you're like, what? That's new? Yes. Yeah, that's totally the issue. So Wi-Fi off and on, or lock your screen and open it back up, and you're good to go. Similar thing, like we have a Hilbert guest network that's now really just in the front office in a couple kind of public places. But the old trick in middle school was like, oh, switch to the Wi-Fi, from Hilbert guest is faster, and actually it wasn't, and actually it was the same exact wireless access points, but what it did do was switch SSIDs from Hillbrook to Hillbrook Guest, and what that solves was connecting them to the closest wireless access point. Same trick as Wi-Fi off and on. And so like for years, like before I even got to the school 11 years ago, it was, Guest network's faster. Like it'll default to Hillbrook to switch to Guest. And the trick, like when you start to ask questions, is actually like when I get a fresh connection, it's faster, and that's because you're connected to the closest one, right? So, like in a nutshell, you can kind of copy and paste that idea, copy and paste style into kind of all the issues. And so, in your assignment number one, you're going to create an empathy map. There's a hypothetical scenario where there's a chemical spill near your school site. In California, like actually wildfire would be a much better example, but possibly a little too close to home, both metaphorically and for a lot of us, literally. Um, so how do you actually have online learning as a quick pivot? And so there's 4 steps, what you need to do for this assignment. Take a careful look at that rubric. It'll walk you through what's expected. There's this template that's going to walk you through all of it. The week 2 discussion board is the same idea. It's a video around the principles of human-centered design. What else? You're going to just share like a time as an educator when you looked at the symptom rather than the underlying issue, right? So for me, the addressing the symptom would have been, oh, let's order more faster Wi-Fi, and that would have solved nothing. It would have actually created more problems because then my tech budget is getting spent much quicker month to month. So you're going to share time when you address the symptom rather than the underlying issue. That's the discussion board. As always, please cite your source. You need at least one source. In this case, it is likely almost exclusively going to be the NNG group YouTube channel where you have the Don Norman video. So just make sure you know how to cite the YouTube video and you're set with that. Make sure you're continuing with your weekly journal. If you've not shared that with me, please do so. Most of you have not. Awkward moment. If you have any other questions, thoughts, wonderings, please reach out. Otherwise, happy week 2, everybody.